Now that you're getting a little bit more comfortable maneuvering through Blender, let's go ahead and create a few objects and assemble them together to make an object like the one that you're seeing here. Something like a classic, kind of like a top hat, kind of that classic top hat object. So I'm going to select these objects real quick and just simply hit delete. So deleting things in Blender is just as easy as pressing the delete key. And then we're going to create our first new object. Adding objects to your scene is found up at the top under the Add Mesh menu. Now there's lots of other things we can add. We can add text, we can add metaballs and other surfaces that we'll deal with later. But for today, Mesh Cylinder. This is going to give us the base of that top hat structure. Now if you looked under Mesh, we can make planes, cubes, circles, spheres, cylinders, cones, torus objects. We can do a lot of different things. But when making your objects, you always want to think about what the base structure of the object is. If it's something like a cylindrical shape, then start with a cylinder, a torus, a cube, and so forth. So we've got our cylinder here. And when we created it, we saw that it added itself to our outliner, our scene collection. And when we select it, we can move it up just a little bit. It's kind of digging through our grid, so we can just simply select it and move it up on the Z-axis by grabbing that blue handle. Then if we want to make a bit of a brim for the hat, we could add another cylinder, or if you're like me and you want to save a half second, select the cylinder, hit Control-C and Control-V. That will create a second cylinder in the exact same place. You'll see that we have cylinder and cylinder.001. Then it's time to go over to our toolbar and find the Scale tool. Now the Scale tool works just like the Move. It'll scale things on the X, Y, and Z axis. So if I want to scale this object up, if we're kind of thinking about making the brim of the hat here, I want it to be a little larger than the trunk of the hat, so I scale it up just by clicking anywhere, we'll call it kind of within this white circle, but not on one of the core axes. That allows us to just scale this guy up and down. See that? We're going to shrink it on the Z-axis, so grab the end cube here on the Z-axis and shrink it down, 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 down. And if we do that enough, it's going to start to look like the size of like the brim of like a Dr. Scrooge McDuck kind of the old top hat. I'm going to switch back to the Move tool. I'm going to move it down to the bottom of the hat. And when I leave it, we're not quite to a top hat. It almost looks like a chef's hat or something, right? Something from like Ratatouille or whatever else. Back to scale because we're not done. Let's select that brim again, and I'm going to scale it out by clicking once again in that open area. So now we're met with a little bit of a brim of the hat. I'm going to zoom in using the scroll wheel and notice that it's a little thick, isn't it? Maybe we want to thin it out just a tad. So I thin it by grabbing that blue square again, and I reposition it by using the Move tool, just to get it kind of just at the bottom of the trunk of the hat. Then, let's say we want like that stylistic ribbon around the base of the top hat. We need another cylinder, so we could again go to Add, Mesh, Cylinder, or we could duplicate one of these. Which one we duplicate is up to you. Grab one, Control-C, Control-V, pop over to the Scale tool, scale it up just a bit and down quite a bit, and then move it into place. And now we're met with a nice, stylish looking top hat. Now there's some things to improve that we're not going to deal with today. We could smooth this out, we could angle it, we could put in a crease or a divot, we could thin out the brim, we could add colors and textures, all that sort of thing, of course, but we'll save that for other videos. What I do want to do here though is point out that now that we've got 1, 2, 3 objects in our scene collection, it's a little confusing when we look up here which is which. Clicking here, of course, makes sense. Ribbon, brim, trunk, no problem. But up here, it's just cylinder 1 through 3 or 1, 2, 3. It's confusing. It's like Photoshop. If you've ever let yourself go and you work on a Photoshop file where everything's called untitled, it's a little sloppy and we can do better. So let's click on cylinder. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to, let's see, let's get in here and, oops, let's rename this guy. We're going to go into, oh goodness. There we go. Sorry, double click and we'll call this hat trunk. And this, we'll double click and we'll call this hat brim. And we'll double click and call this hat trim. Easy word to spell. So if you're used to Illustrator or Photoshop and you're used to hitting enter, that's not going to get the job done. If you're used to After Effects and you click twice or whatever, that's not going to get the job done. For Blender, it's a double click and that'll open up the naming. So far, so good. Since we haven't mentioned it yet, even though it should be somewhat self-explanatory, now may be a good time to pop up here and go to File, Save As, and save your beautiful hat object, as it could be useful in the upcoming exercise.